The rain hammered down so hard that night that Sierra Henderson could barely see 3 feet in front of her face, but she kept running because stopping meant he would catch her. And if he caught her this time, she knew deep down in her bones that she would not survive it. Her bare feet slapped against the wet pavement, each step sending jolts of pain up her legs, but the adrenaline pumping through her veins made it possible to keep going. Blood trickled from her split lip, and she could feel her left eye swelling shut, but none of that mattered. All that mattered was getting away from Marcus, away from the apartment that had become her prison over the past 2 years, away from the man who had slowly transformed from charming boyfriend to violent captor. She had no phone, no wallet, no shoes. She wore only the thin cotton dress she had put on that morning, now soaked through and clinging to her shivering body. The street was empty at this late hour, and Sierra had no idea where she was going. She just knew she had to keep moving. A car turned onto the street ahead, its headlights cutting through the rain like searchlights. Sierra's first instinct was to hide, to duck into the shadows, but her body had reached its limit. Her legs gave out and she collapsed onto the sidewalk, her palms scraping against the rough concrete as she tried to catch herself. The car slowed, then stopped a few feet away. Sierra tried to push herself up, tried to run again, but her arms shook with exhaustion. The driver's door opened and she heard footsteps approaching, quick and purposeful. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Please just leave me alone." Hey, it's okay." The voice was deep, masculine, but gentle. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Vincent Vaughn." "Can you tell me what happened?" Sierra managed to lift her head, squinting through the rain and her one good eye at the figure crouching beside her. She could make out a tall man with dark hair, wearing an expensive-looking coat that was already getting soaked. His face was shadowed, but his eyes reflected genuine concern. "I need to go," she said, trying again to stand. "He's going to find me. I have to keep moving." "Who's going to find you?" Vincent asked, and before Sierra could answer, her body betrayed her completely and everything went black. When Sierra's eyes fluttered open, she found herself lying on a soft couch in a room she did not recognize. Panic seized her chest, and she sat up too quickly, making her head spin. A blanket fell away from her shoulders, and she realized she was still wearing her wet dress, though someone had draped what looked like a luxury bathrobe over her. "You're awake." Vincent appeared in the doorway, carrying a steaming mug. In the light, Sierra could see him clearly now. He was probably in his early 30s, with strong features, dark eyes, and an air of confidence that came from someone used to being in control. "You passed out on the street. I brought you to my place because you clearly needed help, and I didn't think a hospital was what you wanted given how scared you seemed." Sierra's hands went to her face, touching the tender skin around her eye. "Where am I, my home? You're safe here, I promise." Vincent set the mug down on the coffee table in front of her. "That's tea, you should drink it. You were hypothermic when I found you. I can't stay here." Sierra stood up, wobbling slightly. "I need to go, thank you for helping me, but I have to leave." Vincent held up his hands in a calming gesture. "At least wait until morning. It's 3 in the morning and still pouring rain. Wherever you need to go, it can wait a few hours, and if someone is looking for you, they won't think to look here." Something about his tone, the lack of pressure in his words, made Sierra pause. She was exhausted, terrified, and in pain. The thought of going back out into that rain, of wandering the streets with nowhere to go, filled her with a despair so deep it threatened to drown her. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You don't know me." "Because someone needed help and I was there," Vincent said simply. "That's reason enough. Please sit down, drink the tea. We can figure out the rest in the morning." Sierra's legs made the decision for her, folding beneath her as she sank back onto the couch. She picked up the mug with shaking hands and took a sip. The warmth spread through her chest, and she felt tears prick at her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Vincent nodded. "There's a bathroom down that hall, first door on the left. Clean towels and I'll find you some dry clothes. The door locks from the inside. Take your time." He left the room, and Sierra sat there for a long moment, trying to process what was happening. Part of her still expected this to be some kind of trap, some new nightmare waiting to unfold. But the larger part of her, the part that was cold and hurt and so very tired, chose to trust this stranger who had stopped his car in the rain. The bathroom was immaculate, all marble and chrome, with towels so soft they felt like clouds against Sierra's damaged skin. She caught sight of herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her left eye was purple and nearly swollen shut, her lip was split and crusted with dried blood, and there were finger-shaped bruises around her throat. She looked like something broken. She was something broken. Sierra stripped off the wet dress and stepped into the shower, letting the hot water wash away the blood and rain and tears. She stood there until the water began to run cold, then wrapped herself in a towel and found a neatly folded set of clothes waiting outside the bathroom door. Sweatpants and a t-shirt, both too large for her but clean and dry. When she emerged, Vincent was sitting in an armchair across from the couch, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when she entered and set the device aside. "Better?" he asked. "Yes, thank you." Sierra sat back down on the couch, pulling the blanket around herself despite the warm clothes. It felt like armor, however thin. "I want to be clear about something," Vincent said, leaning forward slightly. "You don't owe me anything. Not your story, not explanations, nothing. You can stay here as long as you need to feel safe. But if you want to talk, I'm willing to listen." The kindness in his voice was almost too much to bear. Sierra had spent 2 years being told she was worthless, stupid, ungrateful. She had been isolated from her friends, cut off from her family, controlled in every aspect of her life. And now this stranger was offering her safety and asking for nothing in return. "His name is Marcus," she heard herself say. "We met 3 years ago. He was charming and attentive, and I thought I had found someone special. Then we moved in together and everything changed. Slowly at first. Little comments about my clothes, my friends, my job. Then he convinced me to quit working, said he would take care of me. Once I was financially dependent on him, the real abuse started." Vincent's jaw tightened, but he did not interrupt. "I tried to leave before," Sierra continued, the words spilling out now like water from a broken dam. "But he always found me. He has connections, knows people. And I have nowhere to go. My parents died in a car accident when I was 22. I have a brother, but we lost touch after I moved in with Marcus. Marcus made sure of that." "What happened tonight?" Vincent asked quietly. Sierra touched her swollen eye. "He came home angry. Something about a business deal falling through. I said the wrong thing, or maybe I did not say anything at all. It doesn't really matter with him. He just needed someone to hurt. This time was worse than usual. I managed to lock myself in the bathroom and climb out the window. I just ran. I did not have time to grab anything. I just ran." "He's not going to find you here," Vincent said firmly. "I can promise you that. You can't promise that. You don't know Marcus. And Marcus doesn't know me." Something in Vincent's expression shifted, a hardness entering his eyes. "Trust me when I say I have resources that will keep you safe." Sierra wanted to believe him, but trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. Still, she had no other options, no other plan. So she nodded and finished her tea and let Vincent show her to a guest bedroom with a lock on the door. She did not sleep that night, despite the comfortable bed and quiet house. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. But as dawn broke and light filtered through the curtains, Sierra realized that for the first time in 2 years, she had made it through a night without Marcus. That had to count for something. The next morning, Sierra found Vincent in a modern kitchen cooking breakfast. The smell of eggs and coffee filled the air, and her stomach growled loudly enough that Vincent heard it and grinned. "Hungry?" he asked. "Starving," Sierra admitted. They ate together at a large dining table, and Sierra took the opportunity to really look at her surroundings for the first time. The house was beautiful, decorated with expensive but tasteful furniture, original artwork on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over a manicured garden. This was not just a nice house. This was wealth. "What do you do?" she asked, then immediately regretted the question. "Sorry, that's none of my business." "It's fine. I'm in real estate development, commercial properties mostly, office buildings, shopping centers, that sort of thing." Vincent poured her more coffee. "I've been lucky." Lucky seemed like an understatement given the obvious affluence surrounding them, but Sierra did not push. Instead, she focused on her eggs and tried to figure out what her next move should be. "I need to find a job," she said. "And a place to stay. I can't impose on your kindness forever." "You're not imposing, but if you want to work, I might be able to help with that too." Vincent set down his fork. "My company is always looking for good people. What did you do before?" "I was an office manager at a law firm." "I was actually pretty good at it." Sierra felt a pang of loss for the person she used to be, the confident woman who had her life together. "But that was 3 years ago. My resume has a huge gap now." "Fresh starts are possible," Vincent said, "if you want one." Sierra met his eyes and saw no pity there, only genuine offer of help. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Vincent was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming against his coffee mug. "When I was 25, my sister got into a bad relationship. By the time we realized how bad it was, she was already trapped. He had isolated her from the family, controlled all her finances, convinced her that no one else cared about her. It took us 6 months to get her out, and another year before she could look at herself in the mirror without seeing what he had made her believe she was." "Is she okay now?" Sierra asked softly. "She is. She's married to a good man, has 2 kids, runs her own business, but it was a long road." Vincent's expression was distant, remembering. "So when I saw you on that street last night, I saw my sister, and I knew I had to stop." Understanding washed over Sierra, along with a gratitude so profound it made her chest ache. "I'm sorry she went through that." "I'm sorry you're going through it, but you're out now. And I meant what I said. I have resources. If you want to truly disappear from this, Marcus, I can make that happen." "How?" "Let me worry about that. You just focus on healing." Over the next few days, Sierra began to understand exactly what Vincent meant by resources. First came the lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel, who specialized in domestic violence cases. She helped Sierra file a restraining order against Marcus and began the process of legally disentangling Sierra's life from his. Then came the security consultation. Vincent hired a professional firm to assess potential threats and implement protective measures. Sierra learned that Vincent's home had a state-of-the-art security system, that there were cameras covering every entrance, that the property was gated and monitored. "This seems excessive," Sierra said, watching 2 men install additional locks on the guest room door at Vincent's request. "It's necessary," Vincent replied. "You said Marcus has connections. I believe you, but my connections are better." Sierra did not know how to respond to that. She was still trying to wrap her mind around the fact that this man, this stranger, was investing so much time and money into keeping her safe. It did not make sense with the world as she had come to understand it, where people only helped if they wanted something in return. But Vincent never asked for anything. He went to work each day, leaving Sierra alone in the house with instructions to help herself to anything she needed. He came home each evening with groceries or takeout, and they would eat dinner together and talk about nothing in particular. Movies they had seen, books they liked, places they had traveled back when Sierra had the freedom to travel. It was startlingly normal, and Sierra found herself slowly relaxing in his presence. A week after that first night, Sierra woke to find a laptop sitting on the kitchen counter with a note. "Thought you might want this. No pressure. Vincent." She opened the laptop and found it already set up with a user account in her name. She stared at it for a long time before finally powering it on, and, for the first time in 2 years, accessing the internet without someone looking over her shoulder. The first thing she did was search for her brother, Sean Henderson. It took less than 10 minutes to find him on social media, living in Seattle with a wife and a baby daughter Sierra had never met. She stared at the photos of a life that had continued without her and felt the loss like a physical weight. She wanted to reach out, but what would she even say? How could she explain the past 2 years? "Did you find what you were looking for?" Vincent's voice startled her. She had not heard him come in. "My brother," Sierra said, turning the laptop so Vincent could see the screen. "I haven't talked to him in almost 2 years. Marcus made it impossible." "You could call him now," Vincent suggested. "If you want to." "I don't know what to say." "Hey Sean, sorry I disappeared and missed your wedding and the birth of your daughter. I was too busy being someone's punching bag." Vincent pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "He's your brother. He'll just be glad to know you're alive and safe." Sierra knew he was right, but the fear of judgment, of having to explain herself, was paralyzing. "Maybe later," she said, closing the laptop, "whenever you're ready." Vincent stood and grabbed his keys from the counter. "I have a meeting this morning, but I should be back by early afternoon. Will you be okay here?" "I'll be fine," Sierra assured him, and she meant it. The house felt safe in a way nowhere had felt safe in a very long time. After Vincent left, Sierra spent the morning exploring the house more thoroughly. She had been staying in the guest room and using the common areas, but there were several rooms she had not ventured into. One turned out to be a home office, sleek and organized with multiple monitors and filing cabinets. Another was a library, walls lined with books that ranged from classic literature to modern thrillers to business texts. Sierra pulled out a worn copy of Pride and Prejudice and settled into a leather armchair. She had always loved reading, but Marcus had mocked her for it, called it a waste of time. Eventually, she had stopped altogether, just one more piece of herself that she had lost. Now, sitting in Vincent's library with sunlight streaming through the windows, Sierra felt a tiny spark of that old self flickering back to life. She opened the book and began to read. She was 3 chapters in when her phone buzzed. Except she did not have a phone. The sound was coming from the side table next to the chair. Sierra opened the drawer and found a smartphone brand new with a note attached. "In case you need to reach me, my number is already programmed. Vincent." Sierra held the phone, feeling emotions she could not quite name. Vincent had thought of everything, anticipated her needs before she even voiced them. It was such a stark contrast to Marcus, who had monitored her every call and text, who had used her phone as just another tool of control. This phone was freedom, connection, a lifeline. She added Sean's number from memory, her finger hovering over the call button for a long moment before she lost her nerve and set the phone down. Soon, she told herself. She would call soon. Vincent came home that afternoon with bags from an upscale women's clothing store. Sierra looked at him in confusion as he set them on the couch. "You've been wearing my old sweatpants for a week," he said. I thought you might want some clothes that actually fit. Sierra opened the first bag and pulled out jeans, t-shirts, sweaters, all in her size. The second bag held undergarments and pajamas. The third had shoes. How did you know my sizes? She asked. I have a very observant assistant, Vincent said. If anything does not fit, we can exchange it. Vincent, this is too much. All of this is too much. Sierra gestured at the clothes, the phone, the house around them. I can't repay you for any of this. I don't want you to repay me, Vincent said firmly. Sierra, you were in crisis and I helped. That's what decent people do. You would do the same if our positions were reversed. Would I? I think so. I think you're the kind of person who helps people, who cares about others. Marcus tried to beat that out of you, but it's still there. I can see it. His words hit Sierra harder than any of Marcus's punches ever had, because they reminded her of who she used to be. The woman who volunteered at animal shelters on weekends, who always had spare change for people experiencing homelessness, who believed in the fundamental goodness of people. Marcus had taken that woman and twisted her into someone fearful and small. But maybe, just maybe, that woman was not gone forever. Thank you, Sierra said, her voice thick with emotion. For all of it. Vincent's expression softened. Try on the clothes. I'm going to order dinner. Any preferences? Anything but pizza. Marcus had made her eat cold pizza for 3 days straight once as punishment for burning dinner. The smell of it still made her nauseous. Sushi it is. They fell into a routine over the following weeks. Vincent would leave for work. Sierra would spend her days reading, exploring the neighborhood around the house, and slowly rebuilding her sense of self. Rachel the lawyer kept her updated on the restraining order, which had been approved, and on Marcus's attempts to contact Sierra, which were being documented and blocked at every turn. Evenings with Vincent became the highlight of Sierra's days. They would cook dinner together, or order in, then watch movies or talk for hours. Sierra learned that Vincent had built his real estate empire from nothing, starting with a single rundown property he had renovated and sold for profit at age 26. He was driven and ambitious, but also thoughtful and surprisingly funny. He learned that Sierra had grown up in a small town in Oregon, that she had dreamed of being a teacher before life took her in different directions, that her favorite food was her mother's homemade apple pie, and she had never found anyone who could replicate it. It was easy, being with Vincent. Natural. Sierra caught herself laughing at his stories, sharing her own, forgetting for whole minutes at a time that she was a woman fleeing abuse. With Vincent, she was just Sierra, just herself. One evening, about 3 weeks after that rainy night, they were washing dishes together when Vincent's hand brushed against hers, reaching for a plate. It was nothing, an innocent touch, but Sierra felt electricity shoot up her arm. She pulled back quickly, surprised by her own reaction. Vincent noticed. You okay? Fine. Just sorry. Sierra focused intently on the dish she was washing, but she was not fine. She was confused, because that brief touch had made her feel something she had not felt in years, something warm and bright and terrifying. She was attracted to Vincent. The realization hit her like a freight train. How could she be attracted to anyone after everything with Marcus? How could she trust her own judgment when it had led her so catastrophically wrong before? And worse, how could she feel this way about the man who had saved her, who had given her so much and asked for nothing in return? It felt like a betrayal of his kindness, like she was being opportunistic or desperate. Sierra finished the dishes in silence and excused herself early, claiming exhaustion. She lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle the knot of emotions in her chest. She was still attracted to him. More than attracted. She was falling for him. and she had absolutely no idea what to do about it. The next morning, Sierra was quieter than usual at breakfast. Vincent noticed because Vincent noticed everything, but he did not push. Instead, he mentioned that his sister and her family were coming to visit that weekend. "You don't have to meet them if you're not ready," he said. "I can make up an excuse, but Violet has been asking about you. You told your sister about me. I mentioned I had a house guest who was going through a difficult time. Violet is protective. It's a family trait." Vincent sipped his coffee. "She'd like to meet you, but only if you're comfortable with it." Sierra thought about it. The idea of meeting new people still made her anxious, but she also found herself curious about Vincent's family, about the sister who had survived her own version of Sierra's nightmare and come out the other side. "Okay," she said. "I'll meet them." Violet Vaughn, now Violet Matthews, arrived on Saturday morning with her husband David and their 2 children. She was a shorter, feminine version of Vincent, with the same dark eyes and confident bearing. But where Vincent's presence was commanding, Violet's was warm. She hugged Sierra upon meeting her, a genuine embrace that made Sierra's eyes sting with unexpected tears. "Vincent told me a little about your situation," Violet said quietly. "If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I've been where you are." David was friendly, but gave Sierra space, focusing his attention on keeping the kids, a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, from destroying Vincent's immaculate home. Vincent, for his part, transformed into a doting uncle, getting down on the floor to play with the children and making them shriek with laughter. Watching him with the kids did something to Sierra's heart. This was a side of Vincent she had not seen before, playful and silly and completely at ease. He caught her watching and winked, making her cheeks flush. Later, while the men were outside grilling and the kids were napping, Violet and Sierra sat together in the living room. Violet poured them each a glass of wine and settled into the couch. "My brother is a good man," Violet said without preamble. "One of the best I know. What he's doing for you, helping you get back on your feet, that's just who he is." "He's been incredible," Sierra agreed. "I don't know where I would be without him." "Probably exactly where you need to be, because Vincent has a habit of being in the right place at the right time." Violet smiled. "But I can see he cares about you, more than he usually cares about people." Sierra's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "Vincent is generous with his money and his resources, but he's guarded with his emotions. He's been that way since his divorce 5 years ago. Bad marriage to the wrong woman who wanted his bank account more than she wanted him." Violet leaned forward slightly. "But the way he looks at you is different, softer. I thought you should know that." "Violet, I can't. I'm not ready for anything like that, and Vincent is just being kind." "Maybe, or maybe it's both. You don't have to do anything with that information, Sierra. I just wanted you to know that whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling anything, it's probably not one-sided." The conversation haunted Sierra for the rest of the weekend. She watched Vincent more carefully, trying to see what Violet had seen. And maybe it was the power of suggestion, but she started noticing little things. The way his eyes lingered on her when he thought she was not looking. The way he always made sure she was comfortable, happy, safe. The way he smiled differently at her than he smiled at other people. Or maybe she was just projecting her own growing feelings onto him. After Violet and her family left, the house felt emptier. Vincent was in his office catching up on work, and Sierra was in the library, trying to read but mostly just thinking. She had been living with Vincent for almost a month now. She was healed physically, the bruises faded to yellowing shadows, the split lip closed. Rachel had assured her that the restraining order was solid and that Marcus had not tried to violate it. She was safe. She was healing. And she had no excuse to keep staying in Vincent's house indefinitely. The thought of leaving filled her with a panic that had nothing to do with Marcus and everything to do with Vincent. She was not ready to say goodbye to him, to these evenings together, to the way he made her feel like a person again instead of a victim. But she also could not stay forever. Could she? Sierra was still wrestling with these thoughts when Vincent appeared in the library doorway. "Hey, you disappeared. Just raiding or pretending to?" Sierra closed the book. "Your family is wonderful. They liked you too. Violet texted me approximately 15 times today telling me not to screw this up." Vincent sat in the chair across from her, his expression curious. "What did you two talk about when we were outside?" "Just stuff," Sierra said vaguely. "She's been through a lot. She's strong." "She is. You are too, you know." "I don't feel strong." "Strength is not about never being broken, Sierra. It's about putting yourself back together afterward." Vincent leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "You got away from Marcus. You survived. That takes more strength than most people have." Sierra looked at him, this man who had become so important to her so quickly, and felt the words rising in her throat before she could stop them. "I need to tell you something." "Okay." Vincent's attention was completely on her, patient and open. "I think I need to start looking for my own place. Not because I'm not grateful for everything you've done, but because I can't depend on you forever. I need to start rebuilding my life for real." Something flickered across Vincent's face, too quick for Sierra to identify. "If that's what you want, I'll help you find a place. But you should know that you're welcome to stay here as long as you need to, as long as you want to." "Why?" Sierra asked, emboldened by the wine and the conversation with Violet and the weeks of wondering. "Why do you want me to stay?" Vincent was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "Because I like having you here. Because this house feels less empty with you in it. Because somewhere between pulling you off that street and now, you became important to me." Sierra's breath caught. "Vincent, I'm not saying this to pressure you or make you uncomfortable," he continued. "You've been through hell and the last thing you need is me complicating things. But you asked and I'm trying to be honest. You matter to me, Sierra. More than you probably should given that we've only known each other a month." "I matter to you," Sierra repeated, testing the words. "You do." "In what way?" Vincent met her eyes directly. "In every way." The air between them felt charged, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Sierra knew she should back away, should put distance between them, should protect herself. But she was so tired of being afraid, so tired of letting Marcus steal any more of her life. "You matter to me too," she said quietly. "And it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because the last time I trusted my feelings about someone, I ended up trapped in a nightmare for 2 years. Because I don't know if what I'm feeling is real or just gratitude or some kind of misplaced attachment. Because you've been nothing but good to me and I'm scared of ruining that." Vincent stood and crossed the space between them, kneeling in front of her chair so they were at eye level. "Sierra, whatever you're feeling, it's valid. You don't have to define it or act on it or do anything at all. But I need you to know something." "What?" "You are not broken. You are not damaged goods. What Marcus did to you was about his sickness, not your worth. And the fact that you're sitting here, healing and fighting and finding yourself again, that tells me everything I need to know about who you really are." Tears slipped down Sierra's cheeks. "I'm scared to feel this way about you." "I'm scared too," Vincent admitted. "I never expected this. But maybe the best things in life are the ones we don't expect." Sierra reached out, her hand trembling, and touched Vincent's face. He closed his eyes at the contact, and she felt him lean into her palm. "I don't want to leave," she whispered. "Then don't. But I need to know this is real. That I'm not just confused or vulnerable or latching onto my rescuer." Vincent opened his eyes. "How about we find out together? No pressure, no expectations. We just keep doing what we've been doing, getting to know each other, being honest, seeing where it goes. And if it goes nowhere, then we'll deal with that when we get there. But Sierra, I have a feeling this is going somewhere. I've felt it since the beginning. Sierra leaned forward, closing the distance between them, and pressed her forehead to his. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing together, the tension slowly easing into something softer. "Okay," Sierra finally said. "Let's see where this goes." Vincent smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. He stood, offering her his hand. "Come on. Let's go do something normal people do on a Saturday night." "What's that?" "Make terrible popcorn and watch a bad movie and fall asleep on the couch." Sierra laughed, a real genuine laugh, and took his hand. "That sounds perfect." They spent the evening exactly as Vincent had described, sprawled on the couch with a bowl of burnt popcorn between them, watching an action movie that was so ridiculous they spent more time mocking it than actually paying attention. Sierra fell asleep with her head on Vincent's shoulder, feeling safer than she had in years. When she woke in the early morning hours, she was covered with a blanket, and Vincent was asleep in the chair across from the couch, clearly having chosen not to wake her. Sierra watched him sleep for a moment. This good man who had stumbled into her life at exactly the right time, and felt her heart make a decision her head was still catching up to. She was falling in love with Vincent Vaughn. The realization should have terrified her, but instead it filled her with a quiet joy. Because this was different from Marcus. Vincent did not try to control her or diminish her. He built her up, gave her space to heal, respected her boundaries. This was what love was supposed to look like. Sierra got up quietly and covered Vincent with a second blanket, then made her way to her room. She had a lot of healing left to do, and she knew that starting something with Vincent while she was still so fragile was a risk. But for the first time in years, Sierra felt like taking a risk. The next few weeks brought subtle changes to their dynamic. They were more physical with each other now, casual touches as they passed in the hallway, hands brushing during meals, sitting closer together on the couch. Vincent continued to be respectful of Sierra's space, never pushing for more than she was ready to give, but the attraction between them was undeniable. Sierra also started taking more concrete steps toward independence. Vincent helped her create a new resume and introduced her to the office manager at one of his properties. The woman, Karen, needed an assistant and was willing to give Sierra a chance despite the employment gap. Starting work again was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Sierra's first day was full of anxiety, convinced she would have forgotten how to do even basic tasks. But it came back to her, muscle memory taking over, and by the end of the week she felt like a competent professional again. How was work? Vincent asked over dinner that Friday, and Sierra could hear the genuine interest in his voice. Good. Really good, actually. Karen is great to work for, and I feel like I'm actually contributing something, like I have value beyond being someone's emotional punching bag. You always had value, Sierra. You're just remembering it now. Sierra reached across the table and took Vincent's hand. Thank you for setting that up, for everything. Vincent turned his hand over, lacing their fingers together. You're doing the work. I'm just opening doors. You're doing a lot more than that. Sierra squeezed his hand. Vincent, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I called my brother this week. We talked for 2 hours. He cried. I cried. It was messy and hard and so good. Sierra felt tears prick her eyes again at the memory. He wants to visit, to meet you actually, to thank the person who helped his sister when he couldn't. Vincent's expression was tender. I would love to meet Sean. When is he coming? Next weekend, if that works for you. He's flying in from Seattle with his wife Amy. It works. Sierra, I'm so glad you reached out to him. Me too. I was so scared he would be angry or disappointed, but he was just relieved. He said he tried to find me, but Marcus had moved and changed phone numbers and basically erased me. Sierra's voice hardened. Sean wants to press charges, but Rachel says without more evidence it's difficult. The restraining order is the best we can do right now. It's enough, Vincent said firmly. Marcus is out of your life, that's what matters. They finished dinner and moved to the living room, settling into their usual spots on the couch. But tonight felt different, charged with an energy that had been building for weeks. Vincent put his arm around Sierra's shoulders, and she curled into his side, fitting perfectly. "Sierra," Vincent said after a while, his voice rumbling in his chest beneath her ear. "Can I ask you something? Anything? What are we doing here? Because I need to know if I'm reading this situation right or if I'm just projecting what I hope is happening." Sierra sat up so she could look at him properly. "What do you hope is happening?" "I hope that we're figuring out how to be together, that this attraction and connection is mutual, that you feel even a fraction of what I feel when I'm with you." Vincent cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. "But I also know you've been through trauma, and the last thing I want is to take advantage of your vulnerability." "You're not taking advantage," Sierra said firmly. "Vincent, I've been thinking about this a lot, about us. And yes, I was vulnerable when we met. Yes, you helped me when I was at my lowest. But what I feel for you now, that's not about gratitude or dependency. It's about who you are as a person. It's about how you make me laugh, how I can be myself around you, how safe I feel. Not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. Like I can be broken and healing and messy and you'll still see me as whole." "I do see you as whole," Vincent said softly. "I see you as brilliant and strong and beautiful. Then yes, this is mutual. Whatever this is, wherever it goes, I want to explore it with you." Vincent leaned in slowly, giving Sierra plenty of time to pull away, but she did not want to pull away. She wanted this, wanted him. When his lips met hers, it was gentle and sweet, and nothing like the demanding, possessive kisses Marcus used to force on her. This kiss was a question, and Sierra answered it by wrapping her arms around Vincent's neck and pulling him closer. He made a soft sound of surprise and pleasure, his hands moving to her waist, still careful and controlled even as the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for weeks." "Me too," Sierra admitted. "I was just scared." "Are you still scared?" "Terrified, but in a good way. In a way that feels like moving forward instead of being stuck." Vincent kissed her again, and they spent the rest of the evening on that couch, exploring this new aspect of their relationship with the same patience and care that had characterized everything else between them. Vincent never pushed for more than Sierra was ready to give, content to take things slow. When Sierra finally went to bed that night, her lips were swollen and her heart was full. She lay in the dark, touching her mouth, remembering the feel of Vincent's lips on hers. This was what romance was supposed to be. This was what love felt like. And for the first time since leaving Marcus, Sierra allowed herself to believe in happy endings again. Sean and Amy's visit the following weekend was emotional and healing in ways Sierra had not expected. Her brother was 2 years younger than her, but he looked older now, harder, marked by worry and anger and the helplessness of not being able to protect his sister. He hugged Sierra so tightly she could barely breathe, then held her at arm's length and examined her face carefully. "You look good, Sierra, healthy, happy." "I'm getting there," Sierra said. "It's a process." Amy was warm and welcoming, making it clear that Sierra was family and always would be. She showed Sierra dozens of photos of their daughter Sophia, insisting that Sierra needed to come to Seattle soon to meet her niece in person. But it was Sean's interaction with Vincent that really struck Sierra. Her brother pulled Vincent aside within the first hour, and though Sierra could not hear what was said, she saw Sean shake Vincent's hand with real emotion. When they rejoined the women, both men's eyes were slightly red. What was that about? Sierra asked Vincent later when Sean and Amy had gone out to explore the neighborhood. Your brother thanked me for helping you. I told him any decent person would have done the same. He disagreed. Vincent pulled Sierra close. He also gave me the overprotective brother speech about what will happen if I hurt you. Sierra laughed. What did he threaten? Death and dismemberment mostly. Very creative, your brother. He loves me. He does. And he's glad you're here with me. He said you seem like yourself again. Like the Sierra he remembers from before Marcus. Sierra felt tears threaten. I feel like myself again. Most days anyway. That evening, the four of them had dinner together at a nice restaurant. Sean told stories about their childhood, making Amy and Vincent laugh and reminding Sierra of a time when life was simpler. When she and Sean had been a team, two kids against the world after their parents died. I'm sorry I shut you out, Sierra said suddenly, the words spilling out. Marcus convinced me you didn't care, that you were better off without me, and I believed him. I'm sorry. Sean reached across the table and took her hand. That's what abusers do. They isolate you from people who love you. You have nothing to apologize for, Sierra. Nothing. I'm just glad you got out and that Vincent was there when you needed help. Me too, Sierra said, looking at Vincent. He met her eyes and the warmth in them made her chest tight with emotion. After Sean and Amy returned to Seattle, promising to have Sierra visit soon, the house felt quiet again. But it was a comfortable quiet, full of possibility rather than emptiness. Vincent and Sierra's relationship continued to deepen over the following months. They navigated the balance between Sierra's healing and their growing romance with open communication and patience. There were difficult days when Sierra had nightmares about Marcus or panicked over small things. Vincent was always there, steady and understanding, never making her feel broken or damaged. Sierra thrived at her job, eventually taking on more responsibilities and proving herself invaluable to Karen. She started saving money, planning for a future that looked brighter than anything she had imagined in years. She also started therapy, something Rachel had recommended and Vincent had supported. It was hard work, confronting the trauma and unpacking the ways Marcus had warped her self-perception. But Sierra was committed to healing properly, to making sure she never ended up in that kind of situation again. 6 months after that rainy night, Vincent took Sierra to dinner at an upscale restaurant overlooking the water. She wore a dress she had bought with her own money from her own paycheck, and she felt beautiful and confident in a way that had nothing to do with any man's opinion. They were halfway through the meal when Vincent reached across the table and took her hand. I have something I want to talk to you about. Sierra's stomach flipped, but it was excitement rather than fear. Okay. I know we've been taking things slow and I think that's been right for both of us, but Sierra, I'm in love with you. I have been for months. And I want you to know that I'm all in. This is not temporary for me. You're not temporary for me. Sierra felt tears spring to her eyes. Vincent, I love you too, so much. You saved my life in every way a person can save another person. You saved yourself, Vincent corrected gently. I just gave you a safe place to land. You gave me everything, Sierra insisted. Safety and time and space to heal. You showed me what real love looks like, what respect and partnership and equality look like. You made me believe in myself again. Vincent lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. I want to do something, but I need to make sure you're ready. What is it? I want you to move into my room, officially. No more guest bedroom. I want to fall asleep next to you every night and wake up with you every morning. But only if you're ready for that step. Sierra's heart swelled. They had been physically intimate for a couple of months now, carefully and sweetly building that aspect of their relationship. But maintaining separate bedrooms had felt important, a way for Sierra to maintain her independence and sense of control. But she was ready now. Ready to fully share her life with this man who had become her best friend and her love. "I'm ready," she said. "I want that too." Vincent's smile was brilliant. Yeah, I love you, Vincent Vaughn. I want to build a life with you." They barely made it through dessert before heading home, hands clasped tightly together the whole drive. That night, Sierra moved her belongings from the guest room into Vincent's master bedroom, and they fell asleep wrapped around each other. Two people who had found each other at exactly the right time. The next year brought more changes, all of them positive. Sierra was promoted at work, taking over as office manager when Karen retired. She reconnected fully with Sean's family, visiting Seattle regularly and becoming a doting aunt to Sophia. She also got closure on the Marcus situation. He had violated the restraining order by showing up at her old law firm looking for her. He was arrested and charged, and while the sentence was shorter than Sierra would have liked, it was something. More importantly, it proved to her that Marcus was truly out of her life. Vincent proposed on the 1-year anniversary of the night they met. They went back to that street corner, and in the rain, he got down on one knee and offered her a ring and a future. "I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy," he said. "Will you marry me, Sierra?" "Yes," she said through tears and laughter. "Yes, absolutely yes." They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Violet was Sierra's maid of honor, and Sean walked her down the aisle. When Vincent saw Sierra in her wedding dress, he cried openly, not caring who saw. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," he told her when she reached the altar. Inside and out, their vows were personal and heartfelt. Vincent promised to always be her safe place, to support her dreams, to love her through good days and bad. Sierra promised to trust him with her whole heart, to build a life of equality and respect with him, to love him with everything she had. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Vincent cupped Sierra's face in his hands and kissed her with a passion and love that made the small crowd cheer. At the reception, Sean gave a toast that had everyone reaching for tissues. "My sister has been through more than anyone should have to endure," he said. "But she survived because she's the strongest person I know. And Vincent, you gave her the space and support to remember that strength. You loved her when she was broken and celebrated her as she healed. You're the brother I never had and the partner my sister always deserved. To Vincent and Sierra." To Vincent and Sierra. Everyone echoed, raising their glasses. Sierra looked around the room at the people who loved her, then at her husband, and felt a completeness she had never thought possible. This was her family. This was her future. 2 years into their marriage, Sierra found out she was pregnant. She told Vincent over breakfast, just handing him the positive test without a word. He stared at it for a long moment, then looked up at her with wonder in his eyes. "We're having a baby." "We're having a baby," Sierra confirmed. Vincent pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was precious and fragile and everything good in the world. "I love you so much. We're going to be parents." "Are you happy?" Sierra asked, even though she could see the answer written all over his face. "I'm beyond happy. Sierra, you've given me everything. You've made my life complete." Pregnancy was challenging but joyful. Vincent was attentive and supportive, going to every doctor's appointment and reading parenting books with the same intensity he brought to business deals. Sierra worked up until her 8th month, then took leave to prepare for their daughter's arrival. They named her Violet Rose after Vincent's sister and Sierra's mother. She was born on a sunny morning in May, and when the nurses placed her in Sierra's arms, Sierra felt a love so overwhelming it made everything else in her life pale in comparison. Vincent held his daughter with tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he whispered. "You're perfect. Our family is perfect." Life with a newborn was exhausting and wonderful. Vincent took paternity leave, and they navigated sleepless nights and diaper changes, and the steep learning curve of parenthood together. Sierra had worried she might struggle with postpartum anxiety given her history of trauma, but she found herself surprisingly steady, grounded by Vincent's support and her own hard-won healing. Violet grew into a happy, healthy toddler with Vincent's dark eyes and Sierra's smile. They gave her a brother 2 years later, a boy they named Samuel after Sierra's father. Their house, once so quiet and empty, was now full of noise and laughter and toys and love. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Vincent and Sierra sat on their back patio after putting the kids to bed, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the sunset. Sierra was curled into Vincent's side, his arm around her shoulders, both of them tired but content. "You remember that night?" Vincent asked quietly. "When I found you in the rain, I think about it sometimes," Sierra admitted. "How different my life would be if you had driven past, if you had decided not to get involved. I could never have driven past. The moment I saw you, I knew I had to help." Sierra tilted her head to look up at her husband. "Did you know then that we would end up here?" Vincent was quiet for a moment, considering. "I did not know we would fall in love, but I knew you were important. I felt it immediately, like the universe was telling me to pay attention." "I'm glad you listened. Me too. Sierra, you know I don't regret anything about how we met or the circumstances that brought you into my life. But I hate what you went through. I hate that Marcus hurt you." "He did hurt me," Sierra said, "but he did not break me. And what I learned from that experience, what I learned about my own strength and resilience, that's made me who I am now. A woman who knows her worth. A mother who will teach her children about respect and love and the difference between the two." Vincent kissed the top of her head. "You're an incredible mother, an incredible wife, an incredible person. We're pretty good together, huh? The best." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. Inside, their children slept peacefully. Around them, the life they had built together hummed with quiet joy. Sierra thought about the woman she had been that rainy night 6 years ago. Broken and scared and convinced her life was over. That woman could never have imagined this future, this happiness, this love. But that woman had been wrong. Her life was not over. It was just beginning. And every day since Vincent had stopped his car in the rain had been a gift, a chance to rebuild and rediscover and remember who she really was. Sierra was not a victim. She was a survivor. She was a wife, a mother, a professional, a sister, an aunt. She was loved and she was whole and she was home. She turned in Vincent's arms and kissed him, pouring all of her love and gratitude into that kiss. When they pulled apart, he was looking at her with that same tenderness he had shown from the very beginning. "What was that for?" he asked with a smile. "For stopping," Sierra said simply. "For caring. For loving me through the healing and beyond. For giving me forever." "Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done," Vincent replied. "You're my heart, Sierra. My home. My everything." They stayed on the patio until the stars came out, two people who had found each other in the rain and built a love strong enough to weather any storm. Behind them, through the window, the lights of their home glowed warm and welcoming. This was their life now. full of love and laughter and the messy, beautiful chaos of family. This was the happy ending Sierra had stopped believing in, the one Vincent had helped her find. Not because he had rescued her, but because he had given her the space and support to rescue herself. And together, they had built something neither could have built alone. A love story that started with rain and ended with forever. A testament to the power of kindness, the possibility of healing, and the transformative nature of love. Sierra looked up at the stars and sent a silent thank you to the universe for Vincent Vaughn, for rainy nights, for second chances. Then she took her husband's hand and led him inside, to their children and their life and their future. Because this was not an ending at all. It was just the beginning of forever. And Sierra could not wait to see where it led.